Hello, friends. Well, this time I want to continue with my reading of Toshiyuki Hayashi's book. This time it's step 3 or chapter 3, if you prefer. So I'm just going to open up the share now. There we are. So you can see it there. Step 3, kickoff. Techniques to ignite the fire in the soul. Kokoro ni hi wo tsukeru gijutsu. Rugby demands trust, shinjiru koto, as a precondition, zente. The jerseys worn in a rugby game have a special meaning and values. The team jerseys express the pride, hokori, of the team, school, or company, and the pride of the players themselves in their team. Depending on the team, when the regular members are announced before a game, the coach has a word with each player while giving him his jersey. There are also teams who purify the jerseys with salt. These ceremonies, gishiki, are conducted before kickoff with the intention of igniting a fire in the soul of the players. Kokoro ni hi wo tsukeru junbi o suru. The players who receive their jerseys in this way cry tears and weep. Oetsu o morashimasu. By receiving their jerseys in a kind of award ceremony, juyoshiki, the players feel the weight of their value even more. Sono kachi wo sarani omoku uketomeru. The stronger the school, the stronger are the meaning and values of the jersey. For example, for Waseda University, whose jerseys are red and black, becoming a regular member is described as wearing the red and black. Akakuro o kiru. In this way, the jersey of each university becomes the symbol of each team. So for Meiji University, it is bluish purple, shikon. For Doshisha University, which is my university, it is blue and grey, kongure, and so on. These names are given by the rugby fans. After the game, the jerseys are returned to the team and are carefully stored out of sight. Hitome ni furenai you ni until the next game. Tsugi no shiai made no aida. The meaning and values of the particular jersey have not been constructed only by the current members of the team. The jersey is loaded with the history of the team, which has been created over many years, its tradition, pride, and so on. For this reason, players who make light of the significance and values of the jersey cannot be expected to achieve much. Okay, so here is the author in his Doshisha jersey as a freshman. The author in his freshman year at university aiming for the navy blue and grey, kongure jersey of Doshisha University. The jersey is exactly the symbol of the sense of mission, shimeikan no shocho. The players who feel the meaning and values of the jersey entrust or commit, takusu, those thoughts to the ball, link up with their teammates and carry it to the opponent's in-goal area. That is the sport of rugby. In this way, with the thoughts of each player being committed to the ball and then entrusting the ball to their teammates, a feeling of absolute trust, zettai teki na shinraikan, is essential. But it is easy to say the words, I trust you, shinjiru, and much harder to actually trust even your teammates, nakama de atte mo. Human beings are imperfect creatures, fukanzen na sonzai. And if you seek for a perfect person, kanzen na ningen, he is nowhere to be found. It is not rational to trust an imperfect person, and it doesn't make sense. Rini kanaimasen. In rugby, when you put your body on the line and pass the ball which you have seized from your opponent, aite kara ubatta boru, to your teammate, if he drops it forwards, mae ni otoshite shimaeba, then that is a knock-on offense, hansoku. Then the ball passes to the opposing team, but one person continuing to retain the ball lest it be knocked on will not lead to the scoring of a try. It is quite impossible to run the length of a rugby ground on one's own without being caught by someone. Dare ni mo tsukamarazzu ni. If it looks as if you will be caught by an opponent, you should pass the ball to someone, and that is why you must trust your teammates, nakama. That is rugby. In other words, it is a sport where trust is a necessary precondition. Feeling the power which has been entrusted to you. 自分に託されたものを感じる力. Before the kickoff in a rugby game, it is also important to feel the power of what has been entrusted to you. It is the ball which connects teammates in a game, but various thoughts are entrusted to that ball. For example, the team-building process and the passion, netsuryo, that all the members have invested in the team until now. To build this team, you have accumulated hard practice, hageshi renshu o tsumi, spending a long time together, nagai tsukihi wo tomo ni sugoshinagara, and you have competed for the jersey, which is the proof, akashi, that you have been recognized as a regular member. At this time, it is important to feel the power of what has been entrusted to you. 自分は何を託されているのか? So, what has been entrusted to you? It is the passion, netsuryo, which has been released by each player, kakuji, in the team-building process. However, there are players who are selected and those who are not selected as team members, and inevitably, hitsuzen teki ni, a line, sen, is drawn there. And the reason you are able to climb over that line, sono sen wo norikoeru koto ga dekiru, is because everyone has thoughts, omoi, about the team. This is the same as in the game, where some players have the ball and others do not. It is natural, atarimae, but only the player in possession of the ball, ball wo hoji shiteiru senshu, can score a try. So a line is drawn between the player who has the ball and those who do not. What crosses over that line is thoughts. Sono sen wo norikoeru mono koso ga omoi nano desu. You can entrust these thoughts and be entrusted with them. Takushi takusareru mono. What is entrusted to the players who are allowed to wear the jersey by the players who are not allowed to wear it. And as for the players who wear the jersey, those who are selected, that is, of course, and play in the game, what do they entrust to the ball when they pass it to their teammates? And as for the player who scores the try, what does he think has been entrusted to the ball when he scores? There is a clear difference, a rekizen toshita sa, between teams in which all the members feel these things and teams which do not. For me personally, the summit, choten, of these thoughts is the Sakura jersey worn by Japan team members. The Sakura jersey, cherry blossom jersey, has the highest value, takes priority over everything, and was something for which I had to fight, putting my body on the line, karada o hatte, and risking my life, inochigake, to protect. It is also the pride of the Japan national team. This is why, if you wear the jersey, at least at the moment of the final whistle for no side, you have to have given everything and fall down exhausted, batari to taoreru. This is what I vowed to myself in my heart, kokoro ni chikatte imashita. Feeling the importance, omomi, literally weight, of your team jersey, if you do not feel what has been entrusted to the ball, you cannot expect to show your power. The meaning and values of these things are not visible to the naked eye, but it is precisely invisible things which are important. And this is why you can ignite a fire in your soul. Putting it another way, the meaning and values also become pressure. Recently, there is a tendency to escape from pressure and not to put pressure on others. But if you feel pressure, it is because you have been given an important role. It really is the words of a samurai, isn't it? Just as Ian Williams said in the introduction. Plate 15 is the author as team captain shaking hands with Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, before Japan played England at Twickenham in 1986. It's a good photograph. Okay, next page. Well, you should feel pride that the spotlight is on you and you have to convert pressure into power. I think that the moment when you can convert pressure into power is the moment when you feel a sense of mission, shimeikan. When you can sense this meaning and these values, you will feel only I can do this. Jibun ni shika dekinai koto da. In your heart, iki, and your sensitivity will be ignited. Kansei ga hi ni tsukimasu. There is a 4-kanji compound word, kan no doko, communication of feelings. In order to ignite the fire in the soul and sensitivity, it is necessary to share feelings and communicate them to each other. Sorezore ni kanjiattari, tsutaeattari suru koto. Only kind guys can become strong. Yasashi yatsu shika tsuyoku narenai. This is something I heard from Yamaguchi Yoshiharu Sensei, the general manager, Sokantoku, of Fushimi Kogyo High School of Kyoto, who says he addresses the team members in the locker room before the game in the following terms. There are other teammates who always practice with you, as you will remember. On hot days, cold days, rainy and snowy days, they were always practicing with you. But today it is only you 15 players who can wear the jersey. Today there is a guy who could not wear the jersey and who plays in the same position as you, who will be watching your play from the stand. The guy who plays in the same position as you, what kind of play does he want you to play? If you don't know that, you can't play well. Listen, the most important thing is to become a person who can empathize with the other guy. That's why only kind guys can become strong. After this speech, he sends the players onto the field. The club members compete to wear 15 jerseys, and thinking of the teammate who could not wear your jersey and is supporting the team from the stand, resolving, I will do him proud. Aitsu no bun mo tatakau kakugo. Your performance in the game will depend on whether you can do this. Here's plate 16 is a photograph of the author and Yamaguchi Yoshiharu Sensei. Yamaguchi is a family name. Japanese family names come first, and then given names second. This mindset, kokoro gamae, is not only relevant heading into the game. The same can be said about passing the ball. In other words, if your partner, aite, can't catch the ball, you are just throwing the ball. It's not a pass. If you think about where he wants you to pass and how strongly so that he will be able to catch the ball, if you show consideration to your partner in this way, because you are throwing the ball, the pass will be completed. Only kind guys can become strong. It really is a saying which hits the mark, I think. Explaining the difficulty of continuing to win, the wild geese doctrine, nogamo no oshie. Human beings are troublesome creatures. As they continue to accumulate victories, they seem little by little to forget the meaning and values and the passion, kando, attached to the jersey. For example, Kobe Steel rugby team won the All Japan Championship, Nihon Senshuken, and the Japan Company Championship, Zenkoku Shakaijin Taikai, 7 times from 1988, and gradually, within the team, the feeling, we can win again this year, led to a stagnation of morale, shiki no yodomi. The players are very well aware that such conceit, manshin, is something to be avoided. But when the people around them, shui, gradually begin to think, we will win again this year, then among the players, a feeling that winning is natural will grow, and the feelings of vexation at losing, makeru kuyashisa, and joy of winning, katsu yorokobi, will gradually weaken, and passion will be lost from the team. In the 1995 season, Kobe Steel's championship winning sequence, Rempa, stopped at 7. We drew our semi-final of the Japan Company Championship 2020 with Suntory, now Tokyo Suntory Sun Goliath. But the tournament rule was that the winner was decided on the number of tries scored, so we could not proceed to the final, and our winning sequence came to an end. After the game, I heard shouts of joy from the Suntory locker room. When I heard these shouts, I understood why Kobe Steel had not been able to win this game. In the course of winning 7 championships, the so-called V7, before we knew it, Itsu no Manika, we had forgotten the joy of winning and also the pain of losing. And the most important thing, passion, had weakened. The power of the team should be created by passion. But if passion is lost, power cannot be produced. It was natural that our winning sequence be stopped. Not be stopped. There is something called the wild geese doctrine. Every year, migrating wild geese flew to a lake in the Zealand area of Denmark in Northern Europe. At the lake, an old man always gave them food. Then, before they realized it, the birds began to feel that they did not have to fly to the next lake and began to live at this lake. But one year, the old man died. Since the person who had fed them was no longer there, the birds had to fly to the next lake in search of food. However, the geese were no longer wild and had got as fat as ducks, ahiru, and though they flapped their wings, they could no longer fly. The geese had in the past flown thousands of kilometers, but now they could no longer flap their wings nor take off from the water. One day in spring, when the snows were melting, a muddy stream of water flowed into the lake. The other birds flapped their wings and flew away or found shelter on the lake's shore, but the geese, which had become fat from the care they had received, could do nothing. They were swept away in the strong current and died out. The Wild Goose is a parable of the Danish philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, 1813 to 1855, and it teaches us that you lose power if you soak in the comfort of lukewarm water. It was the American company IBM which applied the wild goose to management. In business, wild geese are necessary, and at IBM we certainly don't feed the wild geese. In 1959, the then president of IBM, Thomas Watson Jr., quoted this parable of Kierkegaard and stated that the mindset of migrating birds facing difficulties was exactly what was required of IBM employees. See IBM's centenary history, IBM Hyakunen no Kiseki, published by IBM. The wild goose doctrine can be applied to any company. When an organization collapses, it is not destroyed by external enemies. It collapses from within because it loses passion and has lost sight of its starting point. Genten wo miyushinatta. The decline of human beings occurs because their sensitivity, kansei, has worn away. I firmly believe that the greatest cause of Kobe Steel losing to Suntory and failing to achieve its 8th championship in succession was that its sensitivity had worn down. Kansei no mamo. Your play doesn't excite me. Literally pierce my heart. Kokoro ni sasaranai. After failing to achieve the 8th championship, Kobe Steel Rugby declined significantly. The team continued to lose important games in a miserable way. I hung up my boots in the year that we failed to win the 8th championship, but I always went without fail to watch the games of my juniors, Kohai. At that time, Kobe Steel had the pick of the best university players, so it should not have been a team which lost easily. However, the actual play of my juniors did not excite me at all. The All Japan High Schools tournament at Hanazono Rugby Ground in Osaka was much more exciting for me. Yohodo watashi no mune wo tokimekasemashita, literally, caused many more palpitations in my breast. This was because the feelings, omoi, of the players communicated themselves directly to me. In the 5th season of continued miserable losses by Kobe Steel, I was invited 3 weeks before the start of the company championship by the president of the club from the time of our first championship win, V1, along with the current team members and V1 members, to a yakiniku, literally grilled meat party at the clubhouse. At that time, I also went to see a game played by the current members, but it was a poor spectacle. Shiai naiyo wa kanbashiku arimasen deshita. The invitation was to the yakiniku party, but prompted by a feeling of nostalgia for the ground, which I had not visited for a long time, I did not go into the clubhouse immediately. When I arrived at the ground, I first went to the northeast corner to see the prefabricated hut, Hurehab Goya, where we used to change as players. At that time, there was no splendid building such as the clubhouse. All we had was the hut for changing, but there was no trace of it. It was an enjoyable party with yakiniku and beer. Then it was time for each of us former members to give encouragement in a speech to our juniors, Kohai tachi ni gekirei no kotoba wo okuru. A similar thing happens in my university rugby club, where the old boys give encouragement. I gripped the microphone and began to speak, but due to my frustration and irritation, modokashisa, with my juniors, my speech became rather severe, kitsui. Today, when I arrived at the ground, I did not immediately enter the clubhouse. I went to see a prefabricated hut in the northeast corner of the ground. Now you are blessed with this marvelous clubhouse, and the ground is covered in grass. But in our day, the ground was dirt with stones scattered over it. In the corner of the ground, we had steel pipes with cement blocks attached to them for weight training. And when I joined Kobe Steel 17 years ago, there were days when we could not get 15 players together for practice. But even in those conditions, we aimed to be the #1 team in Japan. We really wanted to win. We hated losing. I loved this team. Almost all of the players listened seriously, shinken ni, to my emotional speech. But I saw one player smirking. That really annoyed me. Watashi wa sore ga yurusemasen deshita. Literally, I could not permit that. I told the whole team, your play doesn't excite me at all. And I kicked the desk in front of me. There's a plate number 17, the moment of the explosion of joy at the first championship win, V1, Hirao and Hayashi together. What I wanted to say was that the team should return to its starting point, Genten. In the process of strengthening the team, I had appealed to everyone, let's become the number one team in Japan. The whole team had shared in that objective because we had a meeting which became that starting point. Even if he did not know about this meeting, every player must have felt something welling up from the bottom of his heart when he first carried a ball and ran with it. When his parents bought his first pair of rugby boots, Spaiku, he must have thought that he did not want to take them off. I felt that the players had somewhere along the line forgotten that pure emotion of love of rugby. That was what I meant to say. I think the club president at the time of our first championship, V1, felt the same thing. That is surely why he invited the V1 team members. At this time, Kobe Steel rugby team had to return to its starting point, its first championship, to the moment when the 7 consecutive championships kicked off. If you lose the joy of winning and the pain of losing, the team itself loses power. It is truly the parable of the wild geese. If you start to think that privileged conditions, megumarita joken, and an environment where you continue to win, kachi tsuzukeru kankyo, is natural, atarimae, you lose the power to flap your wings and fly. After this, when the company championship began, Kobe Steel rugby team improved beyond recognition. Of course, the players fought hard, and the staff returned to the starting point, Genten Kaiki, and enlivened the players, Senshu o moritateta. That season was exactly 5 years after the Great Hanshin earthquake of 1995. Curiously, Kushikumo, our opponents in the final, were the other Kobe team, World. We won most handsomely. Of course, in the time when the team could not win, the current players, particularly the leaders, must have suffered, just as we did in the process leading up to our first championship. At the award ceremony, the then captain Terunori Masuho asked the previous year's captain Atsushi Komura to receive the award certificate. When I saw Komura with tears streaming down his face, I remembered how Seiji Hirao had asked me to receive the award when we achieved our first championship. That's already been described in a previous chapter. What the rugby club president, Ucho, said, which moved me, mune ni tsukisatta. The time when I truly began to confront rugby seriously and from the bottom of my heart was in the season when I gave up the captaincy after we had not been able to win games. Abolishing the post of manager, kantoku, and getting rid of the coaches, making the captain the center of the team with a leadership group, I was the captain who promoted these reforms and changed the organization. If you can hear a rhythmic chanting in the background, that is our local festival. Wonderful stuff. Full of passion. At that time, the organization consisted of me as captain, putting my body on the line in my play, doing my best in practices, and leading the team by example. However, at that time, my knee was in very poor shape. There was also my position change from lock to prop. Looking back on it now, I think it was an error of judgment. I myself was proud to be the best lock in Japan and represent Japan in that position, but as captain, I felt that if my conversion to prop meant that our team would win, then I was prepared to do it, and so that is what I did. However, I was not able to play in the way I had imagined. Moreover, prop is the position in the front row where you have to bind with the opponent, and the burden on my knee was great. As a result, I could not run freely on the ground as I did when I was playing at lock. I was also captain of Japan at that time, and water built up in my knee. Well, I was a prop in England, and I'm put in the second row in Japan. It's sort of reverse of Hayashi-san. Then in the practices, when I had the members perform time trials to improve their fitness, I, as the leader, was unable to beat the time which I had set for myself. Normally, if the team was not going well, any backlash would rebound on the coaches, but in Kobe Steel at that time, they did not exist, so it all came back to me. But it was me who had made this organization. Regarding the team situation, there were various conflicts, and I had to accept all the criticism and rebellion. I had thought we could win all our games, but it really was a case of make ni fushigi no make nashi. There are no mysterious or unlucky defeats. So in the end, we could not win the championship. At the end of that season, I stepped down from the captaincy and nominated Seiji Hirao as my successor. At that point, I thought, my dream has finished. I did my best, but we could not win. The team management did not go well, and the members had stopped believing. But to tell the truth, I think I myself had lost the trust of the team members. If the captain loses trust, then he can only resign. At this time, I was thinking of not only resigning the captaincy, but also of quitting the sport of rugby altogether. This was the only time I ever thought like this. I even thought of leaving the company and going back to my home in Tokushima, but that, of course, would not be allowed, so I stayed in the team. But my passion for rugby cooled, and my knee was still in bad shape. I was dropped from the Japan team. The autumn came, and the season started again. I played in games, but afterwards the water built up in my knee, and it swelled up to bursting point. Pan ni hareagatte shimaimashita. For that reason, I took a break from practicing once a week and had the water drained from my knee. But every time I played, the water built up, and this was repeated throughout the season. During this time, the then president, Bucho, of the rugby club, Hirata Yasuaki, later vice chairman of Kobe Steel, called me in, and we had the following conversation. Hayashi-kun, do you want to quit playing rugby? I said nothing. I had become disgruntled. Fute kusarete imashita. And in my head I was thinking, why can't you just shut up and leave me alone? Urusai, yakamashi wa. But the president continued. Hayashi-kun, don't you think it would be rude, Shitsure, to quit now? And especially rude to the people who taught you rugby in your junior high and high school, and to Professor Oka Hitoshi, who taught you rugby at Doshisha University? The club president's words moved me. Until that point, somewhere in my head, I had thought that I had become good at rugby all by myself. But in fact, I had learned rugby with the help and involvement of various people. They had put great effort into teaching me, and they were now watching me in the expectation of my fine play. I had forgotten my debt of gratitude to those people. There was one more thing which I understood very well from what Hirata-san said. That was, rugby is really important to me now. In my feeling of sulky disgruntlement, if I had quit rugby at that point, I may have come to resent rugby. Let me give it one more try. A fire was lit inside me. It was the kickoff for my second rugby life. Seeing the strengthening of resolve in my face, hara wo kukutta hyojo, Hirata-san said, I will talk to the company. Hayashi-kun, do everything you can. The game which became the turning point, Tenki, for Kobe Steel. So I began rehabilitation, rehabiri. In the left knee, both my anterior cruciate ligament, ACL, and the posterior cruciate ligament, PCL, had been severed, kire, and the medial ligament was stretched, uchigawa jintai ga nobikitte imashita. That was why, if I ran, water immediately built up. So I consulted various trainers and had them prepare a rehabilitation menu or program for me. When I began it seriously, honki ni naruto, I was able to practice 3 times more than before. I stopped drinking alcohol and eating until my stomach was full. It is impossible to rejoin a ruptured ligament, danritsu shita jintai, so I focused on training up the muscles around the knee, hizamawari no kinniku, which support the ligament, jintai wo sasaeru. To reduce the burden on my knee, I reduced my weight by 7 or 8 kilos. Every morning I went to the head office of the ASICS company on Port Island in Kobe City and borrowed their training machine, which was subject to research and development. I thoroughly trained up the muscles around my knees. After strengthening the muscles, I did some relatively light training, pedaling a bicycle, and after that I raised my fitness level by interval training on a bicycle. Thanks to Hirata-san having a word with the company, I was allowed to go to work from midday. And then in the evening, I went to a fitness club, did about 1 more hour on a bicycle, and then weight training. After that, I went swimming. I am not good at the crawl. 50 meters is my limit. But the menus included several tens of 50-meter swims. After this, my pulse rate went up to 170 or 180, and I thought my heart would burst. I completed these menus in 1 month. After this, I was able to rejoin the team about 1 week before the All Japan Championship, Zenkoku Shakaijin Taikai. Kobe Steel won through to the final and our first championship, but we lost twice in the Kansai Company League, and the team really seemed to be walking on a tightrope, tsunawatari o shiteiru, for the whole year. Later, I had a chance to talk to Hirao about it, and when I said it had been like walking a tightrope, he nodded and said, "Ah, Hayashi-san, You also thought it was like walking on a tightrope. This left an impression on me that Hirao had apparently just barely, giri giri no tokoro, been managing the team. Chim unne o shiteita. When I had been captain, I had tried to build things up one by one. Hitotsu zutsu tsumigagete. Oh, I've got one too many S's. Hitotsu, not hitsotsu. Hitotsu zutsu tsumigagete. But we couldn't win, and everything collapsed. Kuzuri kake. The situation did not change when Hirao became captain, and there was a sense of crisis, kikikan, that at any moment, nanika no hyoshi, things could fall apart. Barabara ni natte shimau. As already stated, in Japanese company rugby at that time, the prevailing wisdom and strategy, tatakai kata, was to accumulate points from penalty goals. In contrast to this, Kobe Steel was aiming for expansive rugby, tenkai rugby, by moving the ball into open spaces. At this time, no other team was looking to play rugby according to this strategy. It was not a matter of passing a ball at a man, but passing the ball into open spaces and having men run onto it. Hirao probably had a clear idea in his mind of the style of rugby in which the ball was moved into open spaces, space ni boru wo hakobu rugby, but it had not been received by all of the players, with many of them still thinking it's probably something like this. Nantonaku konna kanji kana? In the second round of the company championship, we had to play Sanyo Denki, now Saitama Panasonic Wild Knights, who were a candidate to win the championship. We were able to win the game, and not only win it, but executed the strategy of moving the ball into open spaces exactly. This was the result of the whole team sharing the image of this style of rugby, which they had hitherto not understood. If I were to ask the members at that time to name 3 games which were a turning point, tenki, for Kobe Steel, they would almost all say that this game was one of them. This game was the starting point for Kobe Steel's 7 successive championships, V7. The company and I myself had overcome various difficulties, samazama na konnan wo norikoete, to achieve our first championship, Hatsu Yusho. Oh, sorry. It was the feeling of gratitude, kansha no kimochi, which ignited the fire in my heart, kokoro ni hi o tsuketa. There is a poet named Sakamura Shinmin, 1909 to 2006. He wrote a poem with the title Honki, Serious, from Sakamoto Shinmin Ichinichi Ichigen, published by Chichi Publishing Company. It goes like this. Honki ni naru to sekai ga kawatte kuru, jibun ga kawatte kuru. If you become serious, the world will change and you will change. Kawatte konakattara, mada honki ni natte nai shoko da. If the world and you have not changed, that is proof that you are not yet serious. Honki na koi, honki na shigoto. Serious love, serious work. Ah, ningen ichido koitsu wo tsukaman koto ni wa. Ah, I wish people could catch the serious once in their lives. In the year when I gave up the captaincy, I changed, and through my changing, the world around me changed. As stated above, this was the point of kickoff for my second rugby life. Until this point, I thought I was doing very hard things, shindoi koto o yatteru, but in fact I was not completing them, yarikitte inakatta. But then I rebuilt my body from the beginning, and by showing resolute play, kakanna pure, I was able to convey my seriousness, jibun no honki, to everyone. By completing very hard things, I was able to regain the trust of my teammates, nakama kara no shinrai wo torimodoshi. And moreover, the whole team supported me, ato oshi shite kurete, and I think that is why I was able to receive the award certificate of the first championship, V1. The reason I was able to complete hard things was that a fire was ignited in my heart, kokoro ni higa tsuite, and so I became serious, honki ni natta. And the reason that the fire was ignited in my heart was because I was able to feel gratitude, kansha no kimochi. People in the course of their lives always meet the one person they should meet. Gratitude, kansha, conceals tremendous power. This is what ignites the fire in the heart, and it is the same in business. People who have the feeling of repaying kindness, horn, and gratitude, kansha, will certainly succeed in business also. This is probably because the feeling of gratitude includes the altruistic mind, rita no seishin, that even if I sacrifice myself, I want to help other people. If you have an altruistic mind, it is easier to obtain the cooperation of people around you. Also, if you act for other people, your outlook will become wider or broader, and you will be able to make correct decisions. The opposite of altruism, rita, is selfishness, riko, the feeling of I'm all right, Jack. With this self-centered way of thinking, you cannot gain the cooperation of others. Also, since you can only see things through the lens of your self-centeredness, your outlook becomes narrow and you make incorrect decisions. If you consider the directions of the heart as altruism and self-centeredness, and your present situation as making efforts, doryoku, or laziness, taida, and you match these up with each other, the differences become clearer. If you lead a lazy and slothful life with self-centeredness, this is something like a living hell. On the other hand, if you are altruistic but do not make efforts, this leads to a vast and limitless world like that of plants. Then if you make efforts but are self-centered, you may be successful temporarily, but that will not continue, and you will probably lead a turbulent life of ups and downs, haran banjo no jinsei. Only by being altruistic and making continuous efforts can you develop permanently. In other words, the feeling of gratitude, kansha, shows the way to permanent development, eizoku tekina hatten. One more large factor which leads to the igniting of the heart is encounter, dei. Encounters are accompanied by emotions, kando. If you feel nothing about the other person's existence, it is not a true encounter. If I had not met with Hirata-san, the president of the rugby club, as described above, my fire would not have been ignited, and I believe my rugby life would have been quite different. There is a philosopher and educator named Mori Nobuzo, 1896 to 1992. One of his famous quotations is, "People in the course of their lives always meet the one person they should meet, and they meet them at exactly the right time, not a moment too soon, nor a moment too late." After this, he continues, "You cannot help but seek for connection, with a person. If you don't have a desire to seek it within you, even if you are in front of that person, you should know that connection will not come to fruition." Mori Nobuzo Ichinichi Ichigo, published by Chichi Publishing Company. If you do not have the desire to seek nor the power to feel a connection, even if the person who can give you something very important is right in front of you, no connection will be produced. That is exactly why the power of feeling is important. Feeling is active. You cannot get the power of feeling by being passive. There is the word sensitivity, kanjusei, but to create a connection seeking sensibility, gukansei, is necessary. Thus, if there is no power of feeling, an encounter is not created. The Japanese poet Aida Mitsuo, 1924 to 1991, has left the following words. "An encounter at a certain time can change a life radically, konte kara. An encounter is caused by a connection with another person, but the only person who can use the encounter to change your life is you yourself. Through an encounter with another person, a dei, as he says, precisely because you encounter a different self from the one which existed until now, your life will change greatly." The moment when the delinquent students, Furyo-tachi, knew their true selves. In Japan, there was a television drama, School Wars, based on Fushimi Kogyo High School Rugby Club. It was a dramatized version of actual events at the Fushimi Kogyo High School in Kyoto, and the people involved included Yamaguchi Yoshiharu sensei, who coached the Japan high school team for which I was picked, and also my teammates from Doshisha University and Kobe Steel, Atsushi Oyagi and Seiji Hirao. There is a famous scene in that drama. The Fushimi Kogyo team plays a strong rugby school which appears regularly at the All Japan High School Championship and suffers a huge defeat, 112 to nothing. The team members show absolutely no signs of vexation. Mattaku kuyashii soburi wo misenai. So the coach speaks to them passionately and powerfully. They are high school students, just like you. Don't you feel any frustration? Kuyashiku nai no ka? This seems to be a true story, as I heard it directly from Yamaguchi-sensei. After graduating from Nippon Sports Science University, Nippon Taiku Daigaku, and being selected to represent Japan at rugby, Yamaguchi-sensei was appointed to Fushimi Kogyo High School in 1974 and became the coach of the rugby club in the following year. At that time, Fushimi Kogyo High School had the reputation of being the roughest school in Kyoto. There were students who attacked the teachers violently, and as a result, even though some students smoked openly and others rode their motorbikes in the school grounds, the teachers feared the students and pretended not to notice them doing these things. Confronted with this situation, Yamaguchi-sensei met it head-on, and when he got really angry, one of the delinquent students opened his mind and muttered, "Sensei, you are the only one who has scolded me. Until now, nobody has scolded me seriously. Honki de." Yamaguchi-sensei said, "I felt that I realized at that point that the delinquent students were in fact lonely. Since the school was in this condition, naturally the rugby club's activities did not go well at first. Only a few students came to practices, and there were other problems. Also, most of the students gambled and smoked in the classrooms, and there was no prospect of the club winning a game." After his appointment, Yamaguchi-sensei's first official game as coach was the one shown in the drama against Kyoto's famous rugby school, Hanazono High School. Fushimi Kogyo High School suffered a huge loss, 0-112, just as in the drama. In spite of this embarrassing defeat, after the game, the players were calm. Yamaguchi-sensei admonished the students earnestly in the following way. "You are high school students like them. Don't you feel frustrated? Kuyashiku nai ka?" The same scene appeared in the drama, and on hearing Yamaguchi-sensei's words, the whole team cried as if a dam had broken and shouted, "We feel frustrated! Kuyashi desu!" Indeed, Hanazono High School had won the championship in the previous year, but club members had not confronted honestly their feelings of vexation, and they were running away from the feelings dormant in the bottom of their hearts that they wanted to win, kachitai. Yamaguchi-sensei did not overlook this running away. Yamaguchi-sensei's question, "Don't you feel frustrated?" drilled deep down into the hearts of the students and prepared a way for the dormant magma of the desire to win, kachitai, to erupt like a volcano. He ignited the fire in their hearts and caused it to explode. The club members who had shouted that they were frustrated then continued, "We want to win, we want to win! Kachitai! Oretachi wa kachitai!" Then Yamaguchi-sensei asked, "Well, how are you going to win?" Altogether in unison, the members replied, "We will listen to you, sensei." Until that time, they had continued to run away from their real feelings, but now they became their real selves, moto no jibun to nari, and resolved themselves, kakugo wo kimeta. It was the moment of kickoff for the delinquent students. In the following year, after very hard training, Mo Renshu, Fushimi Kogyo High School advanced to the final of the Kyoto Prefectural Tournament, and this time they defeated Hanazono High School by 18 points to 12. It was only 1 year after the crushing 0-112 defeat at the hands of the same opponents. Remarkable. These were the same delinquent students of Fushimi Kogyo High School who until then had no purpose, mokuteki, and no outlet, yariba, for the discontent, fuman, and hatred, zo-o, building up inside them. Yamaguchi-sensei's question, "Don't you feel frustrated? Kuyashiku nai ka?" released the energy lurking in the bottom of their hearts, and they encountered their true selves, honto no jibun ni deatta. This was their real kickoff. So sport, and in particular, I think rugby, has this power to turn around the lives of delinquents. The other book I translated by Kiyomiya-san, he admitted that he'd been a delinquent in Osaka before he came across rugby. A Zen saying preaches that in order to raise human beings, timing is important. One of the sayings of Zen is called sottakuki. A chick, hina, a young bird, seeks to break the shell of its egg and emerge into the light of day, but it cannot do this with its power alone. At the moment when the chick is trying to break the egg's shell, kara, with its beak, kuchibashi, from the inside, its parent must insert its own beak from the outside. When the beaks of the chick and the parent bird match exactly, the shell breaks and the chick is born. Thus, the timing of the parent bird and the chick is important to break the shell. If the parent bird is too early or too late with inserting its beak, the chick will die. In other words, the Zen saying, Sottakuki, teaches us that in raising human beings, timing is very important. Inside human beings, there is a moment when something wells up from our hearts and becomes ever larger. This moment must not be overlooked by parents, teachers, or coaches, and they must intervene, insert their beaks, with good timing. They must correctly identify this moment of kickoff. I think Yamaguchi-sensei's question, "Don't you feel frustrated?" at Fushimi Kogyo High School was a perfect example of Sottakuki. If parents or teachers or coaches can intervene, insert their beaks, in this way, the children or players can manage to encounter their true selves. After I began playing rugby, I was able to encounter my potential, Jibun no Kanose, which I had not seen before then. When I was in high school, I was chosen to represent Japan high schools from a school not known for rugby, Mumeiko, and the overseas tour on which Yamaguchi-sensei took me proved to be a major turning point, Fushime. At this time, Yamaguchi-sensei said various things to me, including, "Only you among Japanese can stand up to foreign players. 10 years from now, you can inherit my legacy, and in one's youth, it is a wonderful thing to devote one's life to just one thing." I remember I was so happy that I hugged Yamaguchi-sensei and cried. And so I resolved to continue playing rugby at university and play for Japan. I was able to encounter a dream which I had never had before. Yes, this was the kickoff point of my life, and a fire was lit in my heart. A hero is not a fictitious or imaginary being like Ultraman, but a real living thing, real na sonzai. For me, Yamaguchi-sensei really was my hero. After meeting Yamaguchi-sensei and yearning to be like him, akogarete, I was able to find my dream, which I had not recognized before. He cast the perfect attitude in front of my eyes with which to head for my dream. Human beings grow by finding their dream, and in the very process of pursuing it. And in that pursuit, you can become your own hero. Anybody can become the hero of their own life. As already stated, I founded the NPO called HEROES to plan and manage rugby tournaments for primary or elementary school students. I want the children to become the heroes of their own lives was the thought with which I chose the name of the organization. I also teach on training courses for company employees, and I would like all of the readers of this book to become the heroes of their own lives. Interesting. So we all have to do our part. The Buddhist concept, Shinkui, actions, words, and thoughts, literally body, mouth, and heart, which creates the foundation of a strong organization. So how can the leaders of a company ignite a fire in the hearts of their subordinates? In this case, the major premise is that people who cannot move themselves emotionally cannot expect to move the hearts of others. First, you have to confront your real self and become the hero of your own life. In addition to this, leaders have to be people in whom three things, their actions, words, and thoughts, are all in union. This is expressed by the Buddhist concept Shinkui. This is also said to be the main point of secret Buddhist teachings, Mikkyo. If the three elements of Shinkui are all present, you can achieve what you want to, but if they are scattered, bara, then you will fail. It is a simple way of thinking. However, human beings tend not to unite their actions, words, and thoughts. For example, they may say, "I want to lose weight," but their diet is spicy and sweet, and they eat ramen, noodles. So their shinkui is scattered, and their diet will certainly not succeed. Also, they say, "I will try to do something new, atarashi koto ni challenge suru." But if in their heart they fear change, then the three elements of shinkui will not come together, and they can achieve nothing. When I was captain of Kobe Steel, I could not cause the three elements to come together. My thought was that I wanted to lead my teammates, but I could not show this with my body. The injury which I was carrying in my knee was the main cause of this, but I also did not know how to cope with it, nor how to regulate myself, and I was over-optimistic. Okina amasa ga arimashita. Of the three elements of shinkui, actions, words, and thoughts, some leaders are better at one element than others. In my case, I practiced as hard as I could, and I put my body on the line in games. I was the type who tried to lead by example. On the other hand, I was unable to light a fire in or motivate my teammates by fine words. If the leaders of a company can unite the elements of shinkui, then at least they can present the image of going forward towards the goal, mokuteki, before the eyes of their subordinates. With this, they can light the fire in their hearts, and this will become the foundation of a strong organization. This will become the kickoff point for continuing to win. And that takes us to step 4, which I will read another time. Techniques to overcome fear. Thank you very much for staying with me this far. I hope you're finding it interesting. I certainly do. So now I will stop. I've stopped the share. I will say goodbye. Goodbye. And see you again next time. Bye now.